Dente Rigomotus. I'm Review Clause.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for Ebenezer.
And I'm the Grinch in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have, as it is SCP-Cember, SCP-1540, or the Metamorphic Identity. Which, now that I say it like that, it almost sounds like I was like I'm going to go see a movie like similar to like the Bourne Identity.
Yeah.
Metamorphic Identity. It's like that trailer voice guy. It's like, this summer coming to a theater near you, the Metamorphic Identity.
I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So SCP-1540 or 1540 is by Anqxer on the SCP Foundation wiki. It's Anqxer is the person's user name. So but yeah, you can check this out at the SCP Foundation website, scp-wiki.wiki.com. I love saying that, like the full name,
because the most annoying URL ever.
Yeah, yeah. I just love saying it because it's just so like convoluted.
Mm-hmm. It's literally just the word wiki and dot in different orientations, and then comma.
Yeah. But yeah, before we get too far ahead, let's give our initial recommendations. I'm going to recommend this one.
I'm going to partially recommend this one.
All right.
I'll recommend this one.
Okay. Well, let's dive into this entry and see why we gave those initial recommendations. Starting with the rundown. So SCP-1540 is a humanoid organism recovered from Provo, Utah in 2001. It was originally brought forth by 3 individuals conducting a poorly prepared ritual, which was originally supposed to transform the performer of the ritual into a werewolf. These 3 individuals vanished, and SCP-1540 was the result. This is all from like documentation and video recordings and stuff recovered from the home of one of the individuals that was conducting this ritual. Every 29 to 30 days, the organism undergoes a complete biological change after being engulfed by a cocoon of its own secretions. The old body within breaks down and is reconstituted into a new and wholly separate human person. They have a new personality and background identity, though they recall all previous memories from earlier instances of itself. These people it changes into also appear to not exist, both in records or the memory of people it claims to have known during its time as these individuals.
Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it didn't recall previous memories of its previous selves, but it recalls, like, it has a past, but that past doesn't make it's not something that actually happened.
See, that's a point of like I think that's a point of the writing, because the way I got it was that like it doesn't it has a completely different personality and full memories. It has separate, unique identity, personalities, and full memories of their previous lives.
Where does it say that? Because
it's the 3rd paragraph after the description.
Previous
SCP-15
full memories of their previous life. Fuck.
Yeah, no, I like it's really like a grammar inquisition, I guess. In the rundown, it's a really weirdly like presented sentence for that.
Because like, okay,
I had to read it.
Finish your rundown.
Yeah, I'll finish the rundown, then we'll dive into this. Yeah, because like I understand your gripe though about it.
I have to change my recommendation now.
Oh no.
Go ahead.
All right, moving on. In records, so the creature still retains its previous memories of its previous lives, but it doesn't. But it has completely different personality and identity, background, and such. It is to be contained in a humanoid cell, and cared for, and each new form and personality after the change is to be documented and interviewed under a false precept or cover story as to why they are being held and quarantined. That's the gist of SCP-1540. But with that out of the way, I suppose we'll move on to everyone tolerates the Grand Inquisitions. At this point, Mikey, do you got anything?
Well, I have a conjunction junction, but it's technically all dialogue. But I did it anyway.
When has that ever stopped you to mimic Gamer from last week? See what I did there, Gamer? Mimic, because last week we were talking about a mimic thing.
Ha!
Thanks for the pity, huh?
You're welcome.
Okay, Mikey. Yeah. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
And 1540. So you've been studying it then. It was still Wednesday, early evening. And then it all just ended. But then I never really thought that, did I? And Doc? It's all right. Finn.
Wow.
All right.
I'm confused, but okay. I feel like I just listened to like somebody, like one side of somebody's conversation on a phone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's what it feels like for sure. But for those unaware, Mikey grabs these sentences throughout the story and to highlight all the ones that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ends, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
Except that this is dialogue.
It is dialogue.
It's the way the character talks, but Mikey is going to be a pedantic little bastard, regardless. And we love him for it.
Hey, we all have our own little bits, and we have to do our bits regardless. I get it.
Yeah. But I guess we'll... Gamer, do you have a grammar in yellow?
Actually, no.
Okay. Are you sure? Based off that sentence that we just talked about in that interrupted our rundown?
Oh, that's not a grammar thing. That's more of like a what the fuck thing.
It's kind of a sentence thing too, because I feel like the sentence isn't structured properly to like.
But that's the thing. I don't know what is life? Like what
I would so yeah, actually, I'm gonna step in on this one. So yeah.
Okay.
So the quote is SCP-1540 instances display separate unique identities, personalities, and full memories of their previous lives. So
Okay.
I also like slipped over up on this, and I had to reread it a couple times to understand what it was trying to say.
I think I understand it now.
Yeah.
And it's the way that I originally thought it was until you brought it up in the rundown, which made me question it. So when it changes to a different entity, that entity has its own memory of its own previous lives. It doesn't remember what it was before.
Okay.
But it turns into a new person, which has a whole set of memories that are different from all the other versions.
Okay, so I got it wrong.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because now they're like I'm like remembering what I read in the interview, which makes a whole lot more sense because that character doesn't mention like the previous incarnation. It just references what it was doing before it suddenly became it was suddenly in this cell. So
yes, absolutely right. This should be a grammar thing.
Yeah.
It should say something like it retains. No, it doesn't retain. It has memories. The current form has its own full set of memories from its life, which are different from the previous iteration of SCP 1540.
Yeah. Well, and actually, even like the next couple sentences below it does kind of clarify a little bit. Now that I'm reading it again, like these memories are internally consistent, and the locations, individuals, and events comprising them generally exist or have occurred in the manner described by SCP-1540. However, all SCP-1540 identities appear to be highly detailed fictional constructs. So yes,
Yes, but it doesn't
yeah.
specifically say anywhere
Yeah.
that it does not retain memories from its previous life. It does not specifically say that. And I feel like it should.
Yes, yeah, and I think the problem is the way it's read, it kind of could go either way, that it remembers its previous life of the new identity, or it remembers its previous life as the separate entity that it just was before it transformed.
But it can't remember the previous entity that it was because of the quote here for the containment procedures. Instances should not be informed of their nature to avoid unpredictable emotional response.
Yes.
Yep. So
Okay,
here's how it is.
Yeah.
I am SCP-1540. I turn into a cocoon and I come out as review cultist. I know I have your entire memory. I do not have Gamer in Yellow's memory anymore. I am review cult.
No, I get that. I'm just in the writing, maybe then at that point it should also it should state while SCP 1540 instances do not retain any of their previous memories from their incarnation, they do display separate unique identities, personalities, and just a little bit of elaboration on that one sentence I think could go a long way.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I lucked out getting it, understanding it, because I normally don't.
Yeah. And I read it and I was like, that seems what is it trying to say? I guess, and I took it the other way.
Yeah. But that's good that you did, because if we all got it, we wouldn't have realized it's a problem to some.
Yes. Yeah. Or the fact that one of us did pick it up made it clear that there is a problem with that.
Yes.
The phrasing. So yeah.
Indeed.
Okay. Wow, that was a we got there, Grammar Inquisition.
We did it.
All right. You don't have anything else, right?
No, I didn't even technically have anything. That turned into a grammar thing.
Yeah, that was just a grammar thing because of the rundown.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll move on to actual thoughts. I'm going to start with this one here. This is from the description. SCP-1540 is a humanoid organism recovered in 2001 in Provo, Utah. Of course, I have to look up the place mentioned, and it's real. Provo is a city very close to Salt Lake City in Utah. It's practically like a neighborhood, like a connected neighborhood, or it's like one of those it's a town that was integrated into the greater Salt Lake City sprawl. So yeah. So that was cool. Moving on. This is a bit more lengthy of a quote and such. But I think this is also still from the description of the SCP. 40 minutes after the event's onset, the skin of SCP-1540 will begin to secrete large quantities of a viscous white substance. The substance will solidify and expand, forming a semi-transparent cocoon around the organism. Over the next 6 hours, SCP-1540 will gradually dissolve and a new body will develop from the resulting material. Once the body is fully formed, the cocoon will rupture and the new instance of SCP-1540 will emerge. 1540 instances differ in appearance, gender, and age. None of the instances have exhibited abnormal physiology or other anomalous traits. And then a little bit later, 1540 instances display separate unique identities, personalities, and full memories of their previous lives. These memories are internally consistent, and the locations, individuals, and events comprised basically going on about how it's all these identities and these personalities are completely constructed fictional people, they don't exist in real life, or as far as records and stuff show. So here's what I got for my notes on this. What if this organism is taking the identities of people from a parallel universe? So in another reality, a parallel, kind of like the Mandela effect kind of thing, slipping between realities and stuff. But what if
the Berenstain Bears one?
Yeah, exactly. What if in a separate timeline that's parallel to our own, people are either being hunted down and devoured every 29 to 30 days by a counterpart organism as part of its metabolistic habits, it needs to eat every 29 to 30 days, sort of thing. And the organism in our, or in this case, the SCP Foundation's reality, where 1540 is currently being held in a cell. In that reality, the organism from that reality is taking the identity of that victim that was being consumed in the other universe, perhaps via a psychic link or what have you, and is retranslating itself as part of some strange extra-dimensional life cycle for this symbiotic life form. Like, there are two life forms in two separate universes that are connected through some kind of bond, like metaphysical bond. And it's maybe it's how the creature, like, maybe like the refuse from the creature devouring people in that one timeline, it's like the psychic fecal matter, psychic like refuse is recycled in the other universe and turns that organism into that person.
Whoa.
Conversely, it could also be a weird flesh-based character creator, like those AI generated people on the website thispersondoesnotexist.com, which if you go to that, it randomly creates photorealistic images of people that do not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Only it's also supplanting a personality and backstory as well to the individual that's being created, kind of like a character creator, like in Dragon Age Inquisition or Dragon Age Origins or various other RPGs where you get like a choice of like what your backstory and stuff is.
Yep.
You get like a certain amount, a couple of traits and some background information and like a wholly different identity and kind of thing as a result of like what the choices you make during character creator. So basically this is like a horrible flesh-based like construct that uses the same kind of like algorithm or an advanced version of the same kind of algorithms as like a BioWare RPG. or
BioWare?
Oh,
because it's like flesh and such.
Yeah. And then so like and this could be like some sort of weird like supernatural or alien construct that the kids the kids in the 80s, I think it was like in the 80s that the kids tried to summon this thing, or didn't try to actually summon this. They tried to like make themselves werewolves, but they accidentally summoned something instead. So this could be like
that's like questionable to begin with.
Oh yeah, and I've got a whole I think my next bit is going to be about that actually.
Okay, cool.
Because I've got some ideas and stuff for games involving that. So yeah, like just maybe this is some kind of like weird supernatural or alien construct that was summoned by the kids. And speaking of, we bounce into the quote with that whole situation. So SCP-1540 was recovered during the investigation into assumed death of Joshua Russell, born 1985. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so it was actually in 2001 when the investigation happened because
okay.
The kid was born 1985. Examination of Russell's house uncovered a collection of occult literature, numerous transcripts recorded by the subject, and a videotape containing the recording of the subject performing an unknown ritual and the subsequent 1540A event. The documents indicate that the subject, along with three associate. There's four people, not three. My bad. Anyway, along with three associates of similar age, developed the ritual shown in the recording. The designed goal of the ritual was the transformation of the performer into a werewolf. Subjects' parents were not aware of these activities, and it also goes in to say like that, like the ritual kind of didn't go the way as they wanted, likely because they used like they didn't use the correct they used supplements like cheap supplements for like the various ingredients and various like
they got no name brand everything, so it's
like, or like they got jank like teenager like like what a teenager could find for like replacement objects for the ritual, and so that's why it probably didn't go as well.
Yeah.
So when I read this, it made me wonder, were these kids who conducted this jank version of this occult ritual, were they the original flesh components that created the first instance of this creature?
Wait, because they're missing.
Yeah, like, so did they just like Cronenberg into the creature, like just implode into the ritual and become the first creature.
Well,
or
we have the video. Shouldn't we know
we
what happened?
we should, but they don't give us that information from that video in this entry, and that's kind of actually a point I have here is I really would have liked to have like a description of like how the ritual went, like, or like a transcript of the video, or at least give us a reason as to why it's not in the documentation, because it says like, oh, like we have the video containing it. Unfortunately, the video is redacted or something like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really give us that. It just says, oh, like there's a videotape containing the recording of the subject performing the unknown ritual. It's like, well, where is that transcript? I would like clearance for that transcript, sir.
Like, okay, they said that they tried the ritual both the right way and the wrong way that they did it, and they did not make another one. So maybe that's why they didn't. They feel that the video isn't important anymore because they've done everything to the letter they did. So there's no point having that on file anymore.
I mean, it might still be handy because like it is clearly like footage of like the lightning striking. Like,
yeah, it is kind of strange. It's not there.
Yeah. And maybe it's just like the author didn't know how to like present that, or like, but like I feel like that's something that could be added at a later date to this file. Like maybe it's like the footage has finally been transcribed. If somebody wants to update the SCP entry. But yeah, so like my original idea was that like while they were performing this ritual, something went wrong because they didn't use the proper equipment or accoutrement. And so they became the base components. Like they were reduced to their base components and turned into this entity.
Yes.
Honestly, so game fodder wise, I kind of want to use this for not. I could use this for like honestly, I could use this for Delta Green, like cultists, amateur teen cultists accidentally created themselves into a foul creature or foul incarnation of something. Or this could honestly be from Tales from the Loop. Like if I could easily see running this in Free League's Tales from the Loop or a tabletop RPG, because that whole system like is all about like 80s and 90s with like crazy fringe super tech and like really weird anomalous things that kind of break physics in a way. And just having like that like be like, and it usually involves like kids in the suburbs like just like discovering stuff like that's gone weird, like weird science or mad science that has happened near their town. So like some kids could have found some like what they thought was occult manuscripts and stuff like that. Turns out it's actually just like some weird like mad rambling manuals from some like scientist, and they accidentally either summoned an entity from another dimension or turn themselves into a Cronenberg-esque like fly situation where they're a life form that changes its appearance, personality, and all that stuff like every 29 to 30 days. But like maybe there's something more you can add to the game to like make it more like there's more of a problem than just like on a personal level. Like maybe this thing has to like do something as a result of that.
Well, it doesn't have to be something that's like evil or
I suppose
bad,
like
you know.
Yeah, I suppose like especially with if you're playing with the same themes as like Tales from the Loop or like that kind of stuff, you could have the kids or the characters find this entity and find that it does this, and then the antagonist isn't the creature, the antagonist is the government trying to recover this, or it's the SCP Foundation itself. It's some like shadow organization trying to hunt down this thing.
Yeah, like if you're in a game and you discover SCP-999, you're like, oh, and then the government's like, we need it. It was like, I will kill everyone and myself before you take it.
yeah, exactly. Like that, you could. I definitely feel like you could do like a bunch of like Tales from the Loop games involving like kids finding SCP entities and like trying to get them away from the government because they think it's ET.
Yeah,
it's an ET situation. And again with this one specifically, like as well, like this, like the 3 or 4 kids that summoned this thing, they could suddenly all be like, they could be friends of the characters and they all went missing. And then when one of the characters goes to actually go investigate the missing people, they find this weird person in like near the house of the one kid who was like the leader of who was like the head of the group that went missing. And like the characters can like kind of trace back the ritual, like they find like the ritual site and stuff like that, and find like the camera, and then they can find out what happened to their friends, and that they turned into this person and stuff like that. So and then like maybe like part of that is like the characters trying to figure out like, well, how do we get our friends back? And then meanwhile there's a shadow organization trying to get this thing because they're been monitoring this whole situation as well. And so again it turns into like super like a weird like fucked up like The Fly meets ET. The extraterrestrial. Or like Stranger Things kind of situation. But yeah, I really liked the I there's something about like a bunch of kids or a bunch of teenagers doing a jank ritual to try and do something and end up like it going horribly wrong and creating some kind of monster. It's just something I like about that situation.
It's like both fucked up and funny, you know?
Yeah. It's it's really fucked up and funny, but also kind of like morbidly funny, but also just like that is definitely the opening seed to like a game or a plot line of something.
Yeah.
Like that, and I just really
or the opening to a movie. That is the first kill is the kids summoning the bad thing that ends up killing them.
Yeah, like I don't know if have you guys watched that it's one of those Freddie Wong videos, I think. Or it's either by Rocket Jump or Corridor Digital, where it's like every 90s commercial ever is like them like having this like this like, you know, that it's like they're drinking this like Kool-Aid like drink from like a silver like bag or like bag with a straw, and when they all take a sip of it, the kids like after like a hard day of like playing in the park and stuff, they take a sip of it and they all turn into these like silver metallic like things that like start like going home, like speeding home, and then when they all kind of like converge on one spot and then suddenly turn into like this horrible Cronenberg monster that starts like spewing acid everywhere and such.
Okay.
You not seen it? Oh, okay. It's like it was trying to be like it's like oh cool.
It's
the
like
kids
the Warheads
like,
commercials.
Yeah, it's like the Warheads commercials or like any of those like 90s like brand like brand commercials that are like energy drinks or like Kool-Aid drinks geared toward kids.
Yep.
And like they go all Alex Max on like, and they like turn into like silver goop that like flies around. But then when they all converge, they all merge into one entity, and so suddenly it's all like horrible. Like, yeah, that's kind of like the same kind of like vibe I was getting from this organism, except like this organism is creating. I think it's even more fucked up that it's not like a Cronenberg monster, like a horrible like amalgam of like multiple body parts. That it's these three or four kids just combined into one entity that is like completely normal, except that they don't exist in records or in like two people that it is apparently talking to, or like it knows.
It's one step away from being an alternate.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's basically one step away from an alternate but it's like, or it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, even in a way too. Because it's like there's nothing physically wrong with them. They don't exhibit any kind of weird abilities. It's almost there's almost like a tragic fucked upness of it, because like these four kids are gone, and in its place this random this individual that changes identity and personality like every 29 to 30 every month basically is a different person. Like it's almost like it's fucked up in its simplicity and mundanity.
Also, while you're talking about that, slight connective tissues time.
Oh man.
I started playing a game that's on Game Pass called Torment: Tides of Numenera.
Oh yeah, the Planescape. The Numenera game from the
fucked up visuals. It's like very dreamscapey.
Yeah.
But also like the main god in that is a god called the Changing God, where it's basically one guy figured out eclipse phase body jumping, and he's the only one who can do it. Basically.
Gotcha.
So when he gets tired of a body, he just discards it and like makes another one. Honestly, so he's constantly changing bodies, and then the person that they're discarded, they have to wake up and like they have to like get their own individuality because they're still a person.
Yeah, but they've suddenly been. It's sort of like Shadow Out of Time, where like the guy blacks out, doesn't have any memory of like the last like 20 years, but another identity took over his body and lived in his body for 20 years, doing all this kind of like weird occult shady shit, and then he woke up in an asylum where the body ended up.
Oh wow.
And his wife had divorced him because he was acting all fucked up and weird. His children hate him because he was acting all fucked up and weird. And then he, as he was like trying to figure out what the hell happened to him in like the 20 years, he discovered that an alien entity from the past had time jumped into his mind and replaced his mind with its, and put him back in the past to record his entire life and his current timeline existence. And then just amnesia, like gave him amnesia about like what he had experienced in the past, and shunted him back into his own body after 20 years had gone by.
Wow.
Yeah, the Yithians are really fucked up. For like they're not, like, they seem kind of benign, but they're sort of fucked up in that they just don't, it's not that they don't get people, it's just they don't really care what they're doing to people. Yeah. It's just kind of fucked up that way. Also, like when you're saying like the Eclipse Phase thing, I could also see using this as like some kind of like creepy ass like exurgent virus Titan threat from the Eclipse Phase tabletop RPG. Like somebody who's like some ex-humans or whatever, like found part of the virus that like, or the strain of the virus that just like does this. And maybe it's like contagious even.
Yeah.
Like suddenly there's just like, again, like the character creator, it's the character creator strain where it just like, when you get infected with it, you like every month, like, or like maybe we maybe tamp it down to be a little bit shorter time period, but like it just randomizes the person's like physiology and personality and such.
The thing that in Eclipse Phase though, it wouldn't really be fucked up because you're always swapping bodies anyways.
Yeah, but
so it's more of an inconvenience.
No, you don't get it. Like the past version
changes.
Yes. The personality changes, and that past person is gone completely. Like that's what would be more fucked up about it. Because like with the Eclipse Phase, like you can either back up and stuff like that. With this virus, like what if it completely wipes the previous person individuality and personality? Like that's what would be fucked up about it. Also, like I don't know if this is similar, but in Starfinder, the sci-fi version of Pathfinder, androids kind of have a similar shtick that what you were kind of describing.
Yeah.
Because androids, after they've lived a full life in their body, their consciousness, like their soul, leaves the body, and a new android soul goes into the body, and basically has to pick up the has to try and like find a new purpose with that body. Like
where's
to
the original soul go?
They go to it's effectively like a singularity. Like the androids in Starfinder like believe in like, or they have an AI god that is like a singularity. Like it's a hive mind sort of entity intelligence that the souls all go to and come from to collect like new experiences and ideas and information and such. So and body, like android bodies are shared. Like they don't simply die, like, or if they die, or when they die, or when it's their time to be done with their body, a new soul, the old soul leaves it to go to the collective, and a new unexperienced soul enters that body, and sometimes also has to live with the consequences of what the previous inhabitant has been doing.
Yeah,
because they have a new identity, they have a new personality, but they still have the person's face, and so and they still have like their like some of their like they still have their baggage from other organizations and factions and stuff that the character either pissed off or is helping out and such. So but yeah, I think that like I think there's a lot you could do with this entity for like game fodder and stuff. But I guess I'll move on to the next thing I have here. This is from Addendum 1540-1. Interview transcript 1540-81/4 semicolon 2008 02 25. Interviewed David Hawkins. Interviewer Dr. Joseph Kaminsky. Begin log. Kaminsky. Please state for the record your full name and clearance. Hawkins. David Alexander Hawkins, security level 3. Kaminsky. How long have you been working for the Foundation, Mr. Hawkins? Hawkins. 11 years. Kaminsky. And 1540? Hawkins. Assigned to it 2 years ago. I was the head researcher too. For 4 months now. Kaminsky. So you've been studying it then. And it keeps going. And as it goes on, it insinuates that this David Hawkins is in fact the entity.
Yes.
And I really enjoy this. Like, I really enjoyed this interview. Because you very quickly realize that David is the thing. But it was so fun to read it like play out.
Yes.
And like realize the fact that like its new identity is now an is an SCP scientist.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do wish we had gotten some more. I actually kind of wish we had gotten sort of like how I said like I wish we had got a transcript of that video of the ritual going awry. I kind of wish we had gotten some more interviews from different instances of the different identities.
Yeah, because the whole thing with this thing is it swaps bodies.
Yeah.
It makes a new body with a whole new personality, but we only have one instance of the personality on file.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, this interview is great because it is like that much fuck. I think this is the one you should end on. But like I don't need all of the instances that they've recovered, like just a couple more than just the one that we have.
Like one that's just like a normal guy, he's like a fisherman or something. One guy maybe that's violent, so they know that it could be a violent individual. It's not always just some normal person, you know?
Yeah.
And then this one, like even just those three.
Well, one that's a 4-year-old, like that's like a 10-year-old boy or something like that.
Yeah, because age is like
age doesn't
whatever age, right?
It changes age, gender, and it could be really fucked up.
Yeah, one of them could be one entry we couldn't interview because it's too young to talk.
Yeah, that would be so fun. Or like worst one is like hi, Kevin, is it? It's like, yeah, where's my mommy? And it's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not a human, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a really fucked up. Like this is what I'm kind of getting at. It was like why I want this, because with all the different identities you can get some really fucked up and good fodder for creepy personalized horror to pop up in the interviews.
Yeah.
And
it could make you question whether the SCP is actually trying to use it as a means to get out, because like as like a 10-year-old kid or something, you could be like, why are you keeping me here?
Yeah.
Why can't I go home? And then the scientist could be like,
yeah, exactly. Like
where do you live?
Yeah, like elements of false memory and gaslighting are in this story, like are prominent prominent features of the horror that's here. And also the horror could be received by both the interviewing doctor and the interview or the organism itself, or both. Like I guess connective tissues, not quite connective tissues time exactly, but like something that reminds me of this idea is there's a couple of actual plays out there. In fact, One Less Die's done one of it called for Delta Green, called Operation Fulminate. I think it's also Twilight of the Gods is the name for the scenario. But it's where like you go into you have to go to into a national park because a boy who went missing in the 80s has shown back up exactly the same age he was back when he went missing in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to race against the clock because unfortunately the Rangers who found him got a number from the kid who's like I think 8 years old. And they called up his parents, who are freaking out and rushing to get there, and the government and the organization's trying to stall them because like he's not the same age he should be when he like he's the age he was back when he disappeared, but like 30 years have gone by. Like this person should be 38 or 40 now. So yeah, and I've seen in some of the actual plays I've heard, like there's some really like it not like bad, like not like, oh, they have like kill the kid kind of thing. But there's some really like kind of fucked up situations the agents have found themselves in with like how to deal with this kid because of stuff that happens in the scenario. I'm not going to spoil completely. I'll let people who want to listen to it. You can check them out at the Unspeakable Oath podcast has a playthrough of it. And again, our sister podcast, One Less Die, has one where Adam from RPX ran his first game with us, and we went through the same kind of scenario. So, but yeah, just like think about like that kind of like what you just brought up was like where the thing is trying to escape, or it's trying to it's affecting the person that's interviewing it, like. That immediately rang true for that scenario.
Yeah,
Delta
for
Green.
sure.
So, Mikey, I think you were trying to say something, but I kept talking over you. Would you?
Well, just back to the interviews. Like there's a perfect example of what could be in one of the interviews is basically explaining to SCP-1540 what it is, so that we see the unpredictable emotional response that we want to avoid through the contamination procedures.
Oh, God,
Yeah, because it says specifically like don't do that, but why? You know?
Yeah, like either the person, the individual that is human and yet not human, just has like a weird, like has a really bad, violent, emotional breakdown, or it's like the Thing when it gets caught and it goes full on alien.
Yeah,
like the face just splits open to reveal massive jaws and like tentacles start coming out and such. Like we don't want to make it realize that its numbers are up, or it's been caught. We
which
need
would leave like a whole aura of like danger around this thing. Like even if everything that it does when you do tell it what it is completely redacted out, it would still be like, okay, like don't fuck around with this thing. You know, it's still dangerous.
I think I got the perfect one. It's like SCP. If SCP-1540 is ever it ever learns its true nature, it will redacted within a 100-mile radius of the site it's currently. It's like,
or even just within a redacted radius of the site,
because
it's still a radius of the site.
Yeah, it will redacted within a redacted radius of the site. I was like, what the fuck does it do?
Yeah.
Like, does it explode? Does it like spore out? Does it like, what the fuck does
just
it
murder
do?
everything in that radius?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what the fuck? I that's what you got. Well, that's what you got to have in this, to like really like to add in that there is a danger to giving it its identity, or like revealing to itself what its nature is, because then it's just fucked.
Yeah, as it is, it's pretty chill.
Yeah.
Which I guess is why I have a note on this, but early on it says like it's housed at like which SCP what wing and which containment cell. Like the actual containment cell is labeled. So I'm like, okay, I hope this thing is relatively safe because we know exactly where it is.
Yeah, there's like no redaction at all in this one. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of refreshing to actually get all the clearance. But there's just it's this whole thing is like I was saying, like it's very personalized body horror. Because it can affect because the horror can not only affect the interviewing individuals, or like the people outside, like the outside individuals, it can also affect the organism itself, or both at the same time.
Yeah.
It's almost, this gives me vibes of horror from like The Thing or Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That whole like horror of identity loss or false identity. Like you thought your life was this, but it's actually this, but like this, the shadow organization that's keeping you hostage is like gaslighting you on like your entire and giving you cover stories about what your actual like existence is and such.
A little bit like Total Recall too.
Yeah, Total Recall is another one for it. It has a lot of potential, and maybe it just needs to build up more into the entry, or even add a few stories in the like SCP tales about this entity. I think would be really cool. And certainly game fodder wise, like we've tapped into like a bunch of different different settings and systems you could run this in. So, but yeah, that's my actual thoughts. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil, or the E stands for Ebenezer.
All right, so far I checked out the interview stuff. My next note here is I had trouble identifying the threat that this SCP posed.
There isn't one.
Because
No, yeah,
well, the thing is, it's loosely touched on because the interview with the doctor that's supposedly worked for the Foundation, all his memories have facts that are part of the Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what happens when you get this SCP transformed into a director?
yeah.
Oh.
Or even worse, like because again, like they he might say that he's a director and have all these information, but like the thing is, there's no record of him.
But he would have the clearance codes because he has that information.
Yeah. Here's my thing. It's like, yeah, either it is safe because like all of his codes are not actually like the correct in this universe or in this instance, or it's even worse because those codes that he's randomized happen to be the right codes. And he's just able to like walk out. Yeah,
But
no,
also,
yeah.
The other thing is like this thing's, I'm assuming, under 24-hour surveillance through like cameras and shit. Like they're watching it transform. So like, okay, we watched you transform into the director.
We know you're
the
not
director. You're not leaving this room. We're not going to mix you up with Steve upstairs.
Yeah, exactly. Director Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they have any sort of automation that just requires the codes that or information that the directors have,
Yeah.
then it could easily escape theoretically.
If he just goes up to the door and he's like, unlock code 73337, and then the door just opens.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like then that's when like that's why they have that's why it's not classified as a safe class SCP. Why it's a Euclid class.
It's classified as a Euclid class because it has intelligence.
Yes, which makes it unpredictable.
Yeah.
So that's why like that. But I mean, like that's why it has the Euclid class is because they are monitoring it. They are keeping it under lock and key and stuff, and because it has the potential that they don't know enough about it to know that like what it could do, or they can't trust it exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So that was just my thought. Like, where is the threat? And then once you realize, oh, it could have the knowledge of, well, basically anyone on Earth or anyone in an alternate dimension, then all of the facts that they have are real facts.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes like, oh, that they could have the nuclear codes and
oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm President Carmichael, blah blah blah. The second you will release me, I need to get rid of the commies. we need to start war with the commies. And like, here are the codes. And so I was like, oh shit, those are the actual codes. Fuck. I was just actually kind of thinking on this, like another threat that could be like the really cool to explore maybe in an SCP Tales would be a therapy session, not from the entity, but from one of the longtime workers or staff, or staff doctors that like talks to on the regular with the entity like throughout multiple incarnations, because they're having a hard time like disassociating like that person is dead, like that identity that they've talked to and like they have to like leave the SCP Foundation and get a psych eval because their professionalism has started breaking down because they've been talking with so many different individuals that like over the course of like several months, and that person then dies and a new form, and they have to reestablish a new communication with that entity.
Yeah.
Like that would definitely fuck with somebody's brain, like realizing that this entity had it's almost like Doctor Who a little bit in like his reincarnations. Because like
But at least they're different visuals. If you looked at the same all the time, then that would be a hell of a lot more confusing.
But at the same time, like if you spent like a month with somebody, like interviewing them and keeping a personal, like a professional rapport with them, eventually you might start to like their personality and some of that, and then they die, or then they're gone, they're completely gone, and then you have to start all over again. So like, and I could definitely see the SCP
next guy's a
Foundation.
dick. It's like, oh god.
Yeah.
Or like, the next guy's nice.
Or the next one's a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Who just misses his mother. Like again, and you know that the SCP Foundation like is that kind of bureaucratic bullshit where they aren't going to swap out staff or like scientists necessarily. They might, but I think for like a story, it would make much more sense for them to not.
They leave them in until they become D class.
Until they have to be amnesticized after taking a full psych eval and like therapy session to like get rid of like to evaluate if they are still good to go or if they need to be amnesticized and put back into like public. Like they're no longer, they were retired, but not like the 9mm retirement plan. More like they're completely amnesticized and put in a home somewhere because their brain's been too fuckled. But yeah, sorry, it's just like you're talking about like the threat of it, and I was like, that's actually a really nasty personalized threat. Would be being the scientist who has to interview these things day in and day out, and then forming even like a short-term bond, and then like realizing that individual that you just like spent time with is now gone completely.
Yeah,
it'd be so fucked up. But yeah.
So that's into my actual thoughts.
Okay. Gamer.
Let's see. What do I have left? Or maybe right. Probably more left, so.
God, he's from Left Town. Kill him!
Yeah, totally. Alright, so we talked about that. 1540-A are not ectoentropic in nature.
Yeah.
With an organism losing 5 to 8% of its mass during each event. So I had to look that up because I've never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
And ectoentropic means it can violate the laws of thermodynamics and make energy or matter out of nothing.
That's actually kind of what I did not know what it meant, but I kind of assumed that I could kind of like guess what it meant.
For sure, because it says like it's not this because it does this, so you can assume without having to Google. But I wanted to Google anyways.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad that you did, because like now that we actually have like clarity of what exactly that means.
Yeah, it basically it makes sense because like the stuff that's coming from it, that amount of percentage is actually is being taken from the body that it was formerly.
Yeah, and then it even states like that mass is recovered by like mundane means, which is probably just like it eats in food. Yeah, basically it loses some caloric count, and then needs to like or it loses some biomass and needs to be like has to beef that back up through like a caloric increase.
Yep, for sure. Okay, in the addendum, Kaminsky says, so you've been studying it then? Hawkins says, yes, I'm a biologist. My group is working on metamorphic reaction, isolate, replicate, narrow to individual organs. You have access, you should know the details. So this kind of shit is the kind of shit that the Foundation should be doing with all SCPs, basically trying to do some good with them. Because like I feel like 90% of the SCPs out there, they just lock them up there and throw away the key, and they don't try to do anything good with them. But at least with this, they're trying to see if they can use this quote-unquote technology, or whatever they want to call it, to create new human organs.
Yeah.
For people that are missing an eye, an arm, a
Oh my
leg,
God.
a liver,
Yeah.
you know. If they could actually control this could be extremely good for mankind.
Yeah. So you know, so in Delta Green, you'd actually prefer to work for Majestic 12 rather than Delta Green. In the lore of Delta Green's policy is usually to burn it with fire and completely destroy it and get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Majestic 12 are the guys who's like, well, hang on a second. Let's take some samples. Let's take some manuscript. Let's not burn the books. Let's see what we can learn for this, for the betterment of America. I mean, the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's basically like, and they're the enemy of Delta Green. Like Delta Green is like, no, like Delta Green is like, no, like everything's got to be purged. Like nothing good comes from reading the books. Burn everything. Get rid of it. Get rid of all the these things. They're not good for us at all. They're all toxic.
What if I read this one book? I can cast Fireball.
Or if we perform this ritual properly, we can create something that can save hundreds of lives. Like, not worth it. But like, and that's the thing, because usually like the material does corrupt the person and turns them into something horrible.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, so it's sort of like the like Majestic 12 is like the ends justify the means, versus Delta Green, which is nothing good comes from this material, from this line of thought or work. Like it must be purged.
Yeah.
Like it'll ultimately corrupt us and turn us into something not human. So yeah, we're not using it.
You say that, but I wonder how much weird shit is in Area 51 that has turned into our smartphones that if we didn't do science on, we wouldn't have had.
Okay, there, Naruto running Boomer. God, I really wish they had actually like managed to get into Area 51 during that.
They all would have been
raid.
shot dead.
I know, it would have been so like, or like if like I wish it had happened, and like that had been even if that had been the outcome, it's like that would have been amazing. It would have been horrible, but it would have been amazing.
Yeah. Amazingly horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need to switch subjects.
No,
I was just about to, but I'm not going to. But yeah, that's about that. So then we get to the end of the interview, and he says, I don't know anymore. Could we continue another time? Kaminsky says, if you want, certainly. Hawkins. And Doc, could I see Sarah again? I don't know if she doesn't remember me anymore. I just wanted to see her one more time. Dipping your toes into making an SCP for once, eh, Cultist?
Again. other people use Sarah.
I don't know, man.
as soon as you said, as soon as like, by the way, Doc, it's like, oh no.
He's gonna do
it. He's gonna reference like the Sarah thing comes up. It's like, oh shit.
Always, every time. Seriously though, I like that they're I like that they're using the SCP to describe one of like the science that has been going on with the SCP through the SCP instead of actually just talking to a scientist, because this guy's facts are factual.
Yeah.
So that is cool how they did that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. That's about it for my main thoughts until final.
All right. Well, that's as good a segue as any to final thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm still going to recommend this. It could definitely use more details on like some more interviews, maybe that transcript kind of thing, just to like give us more elaboration on this entity, because it's a really cool idea and concept, and I really enjoy the concept being presented here. And it has had my mind racing with possible ideas for fodder, both like story wise or even game wise. So yeah, I'm still going to recommend it, though. I mean, clearly it could still use some work, but it's not enough for me to detract what I like about the story as it is right now. So I'm still willing to give it a full recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey, these stands for evil.
So basically we have a perpetual human caterpillar.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Which by itself isn't inherently creepy. It's because I don't find caterpillars and butterfly is creepy.
Okay,
It's not like
You're-
actually.
it's not actually, but like it I'm
I thought you
sorry.
were going metaphorical with it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like it is. I'm sorry. Somebody like secreting a material that cocoons them, and then you see their like through their cocoon dissolve into a new person. That's not gonna fuck you up, like psychologically. Like that's not
Well,
fucking creepy.
the fact that that's exactly what caterpillars do to turn into butterflies, like it already
Yeah.
exists in nature.
Yes, but
So
it's
it's
happening in a
basically
human.
just a messed up experiment.
Doesn't mean it's not
I-
fucked up and weird to
Yeah,
see, though.
it's still fucked up because it's something from something else that we see in nature that is not that doesn't happen something that else in nature. So it's fucked up.
Okay, I have something to bring forth here, Mikey. If you see a
Hmm.
human shed its own skin for a new layer of skin underneath it, like a snake, is that not fucked up to see? Just because a snake can do it.
Well, but humans already shed their skin.
I
No,
mean,
but
as
like-
one
like how a
piece that
skin-
you could put
yeah.
back on as a suit.
Yeah, like how a snake does it, or how a crab does it, where they and like you see like fresh, like no tan, like pale, like baby flesh, like kind of skin underneath
Pull
it.
it off in one shot.
Yeah, exactly. Like and suddenly there's just a husk of what the person looked like before on the ground. You wouldn't think that's fucked up because crabs can do it, like snakes can do it.
Crabs? Do crabs do it?
Yeah, no, look up crabs shedding their shell, like their carapace. Like it's like they it's really fucked up and
Oh,
cool.
interesting.
But yeah,
It's just weird, Mikey. Come on.
yeah, like it may happen. It may be happening in nature,
Well,
but it's transposed on something that it doesn't happen in nature. It makes it fucked up.
Yeah.
well, I'm not disagreeing that it's weird,
Okay.
but I would be friends with SCP-1540. Is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, if they were like if they weren't like homicidal or anything, I 100% agree. I would hate it because like we wouldn't be friends very long before we had to
Yeah.
start before we had to try and start that relationship all over again.
Mhm.
But oh god, it's like that one that meme that I've seen now, like I think it's from like Critical Role. It's like from an excerpt from Critical Role. It's like you were a great experience, and then like the character who's not an elf, you were everything, because it's like a human in the human or like a shorter lived entity in relations with a long lived entity.
Yeah.
It's like and it's like the same situation like when like humans the human to dog relationship is kind of like the human to elf relationship. Like you are like your dog is like a moment in your life, that like a great moment in your life.
Yes.
To you, the dog is like to you
To
for
the
dog.
you're
To the dog,
everything.
yeah, to the dog, you're all it's ever known. Like you are the
Yes.
you are the greatest thing in its existence because you will outlive the dog by decades.
Mhm.
And now I've made myself incredibly sad.
Aw.
I'll be all right.
Mikey.
I'll be all right. But yeah, like it's still like it's weird. That's the thing about SCPs. They don't always have to be super creepy. They're about like being anomalous and weird and fucked up as well. But
Yeah. And I'm gonna continue with agreeing that it needs more explanations and interviews and whatnot, because you have to explain to some degree what the threat is. Like, I had to literally think, like, how is this SCP a threat and not just safe?
Does it have to be a threat? 999's not a threat. You didn't question his adorableness.
is SCP-999 a safe or Euclid class?
Euclid does.
Euclid is only that it has an intelligence, but like
yeah.
I thought like Euclid and it is just one object class. I thought it's like Euclid, but it could be dangerous, or there's like Euclid, but it's safe.
Yeah, well, Euclid is the thing is Euclid has the greatest scope of what it can be, what's classification be. And it's usually a safe bet that the SCP will be this class if it doesn't easily fall into any other standard object class.
999 is safe.
Yes, which makes sense.
As I
because
do the umpire thing, like he slid it into home base. Safe.
Safe SCP class are anomalies that are easily or safely contained.
So yes, at that point, Mikey, I agree with you. There is apparently some danger that isn't addressed. You are right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the containment procedures seem far less than the cup we did previously.
Oh yeah. I mean, that cup is really like that cup is a danger though. Like
that cup runneth over, honestly. Like...
yeah. But like this thing, like there are there are protocols for like do not trigger a reaction. But yeah, I do kind of agree. Like there are some like I'm willing to give this a pass, like a full recommendation because I love the idea so much. But I can see what you're coming from of like giving this a partial recommendation because it's like it needs more. Or we could use some more, certainly.
Yeah. So
I assume that you're sorry.
Yeah, I'm still gonna give it a partial recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, I just realized like, wait, I just gave you said that you gave it a partial recommendation. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Yeah. This is why I need to stop talking over people in their situations.
He's fine. So yeah, my turn.
Yes, gamer.
Yeah. Because awkward silence.
Or the Grinch, yes.
Yeah. For me, I did say I'd recommend it, but I think I am going to change it to a partial. Not because I like it less now, but just because I'm seeing that it needs more for it to for me to fully recommend it. Because as Mikey brought up, it's Euclid class, but it doesn't have a lot of containment procedures to it, so it doesn't seem dangerous.
Yeah.
And it says like don't tell it what it is, but no reason why, you know?
Yeah, like even if they said
it was
like
all redacted out, like
don't
do this because it'll do redacted in a redacted radius.
All the site is like, what the fuck does it mean?
Yeah.
Like, redacted.
And it needs clarification that every time it switches forms, it is a completely new individual that does not remember anything that happened in its previous life.
Yep.
In its previous form.
Yeah, in its previous. That's what it needs to be like. In its previous form, not its previous life, because like
yes, it could refer to the past of the current form. Yeah,
the nomenclature needs to be clarified a little bit more.
Yes, and a couple more addendums would be nice. The one is fantastic, and I like that we start with it.
It's also like I understand like maybe why they decide not to do any more interviews, because like this one is perfectly encapsulates the horror of like the personalized horror of this, because like you think when you first start off, it's it's seemingly two scientists talking to each other, and then you realize one of those scientists it's like the Thing scenario at the end of the Thing, which is Childs or McCready, the Thing at the end of the Thing, and then it's that kind of like, oh shit, one of them is the Thing.
Yeah, and again, I like if this stayed as the first one, you would still have that impact of realizing, oh, this isn't a scientist, this is actually the entity. And then go on to one or two more instances of completely different personalities, just so you could see a little bit the variety. Specifically, ones that would warrant different containment procedures. Like one guy's violent, one's a child, so you actually have to take care of it. You know, so there's some variety. Like the containment procedures change on a monthly basis potentially.
Yeah,
and that isn't referenced.
God, one's a 90-year-old man who's like having a breathing problem. It's like, oh God, like now they have to like get in some support some support
life
devices
support
and stuff.
Yeah, they part of the containment procedures might be they have to have all these different things on standby depending on what form it takes. You know, it might need an air supply if it's an old guy who can't breathe very well, or it might need a bunch of diapers. You know, like you can't go out and drive to Walmart every time it switches, you know?
Yeah, usually these sites are not in like populated areas. They're usually out in like the desert or like out in like a rural parts. Like, all right, Steve, we need to get to the nearest Walgreens. Pick up some diapers and baby formula.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it's like somebody get us a blender. We need to put some of our food into a blender to feed this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so long story short, I feel that adding a little bit would add a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry. Adding a little bit would add a lot, so I feel I'm going to leave it as partial now because I did really enjoy it, but a little bit would make it a lot better in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I honestly like agree with you guys. I'm not willing to
Oh, that's fine.
demote it.
I am not trying to change your thoughts. So.
Yeah. No, but I also like 100% agree. It does. I would like more, please.
Yes.
But yeah, all right. So yeah, 2 partial recommendations and 1 recommendation. Though we all really love the ideas behind this SCP. We must have more.
Mm-hmm.
We're all Disney princesses here.
Yep.
But that has been this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below as this gets posted. We're all on Twitter, kind of. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without the W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah.
And I'm at Review Cultist. You know what I should almost do? It's like the Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without the W at the end because his name is very redacted. Because his name is redacted. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also check me out over at Blue Sky, where I also post stuff about Al Dente and other creepypasta stuff and other things. So, also you can send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. And if you'd like to help support our show, you can go to Patreon, select the backer you'd like to support us at. We have extra content, early access, stuff like that. To all our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these entries, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without your ideas that you conceptualize into SCP entries and post them on the wikis to share out in the internet land, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Clause.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for Ebenezer.
And I'm the Grinch in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis for SCP-Cember. Sleep well.